Hi there, this is part 3 of a 5-part series about making a journal from scratch. So if you haven't seen the previous videos, you can go back and watch those first. So here in part 3, I want to talk about the paper you will be putting inside your journal. There are so many options and you are definitely not limited to plain white paper. If you learn from a bookbinding professional, they will teach you about the grain of paper and testing for that and folding paper the right way. That's all fine and dandy, but I am a rebel and I don't really follow all of that. Obviously, I'm just making journals from materials that I have already, and it's for the fun of art journaling and sketching and things like that. So it doesn't really bother me to go wild. I wanted to show you just the variety of papers you can use in your journal, from like artists, mixed media, painting papers, to decorative papers and Flow magazine, to book paper, book pages basically. It's a bit thinner, but it's sort of nice to have that variation, especially if you're making junk journals. You can also use vellum paper. It's one of my favorite because just having some see-through elements as you flip through a journal is really cool, and especially for art journaling or collaging, very cool. You can also use like untraditional materials like this weird bag that's sort of like a funky fabric-y type of material. It's up to you. It just depends on if you're okay with sort of the floppy material or if you want something rigid. Here's a stack that I've already put together, and they're scrapbook papers. So they're all sort of in a coordinating color scheme, and a really nice sort of themed journal, given that the papers all coordinate with each other. But you can also use, your own painted papers or collaged papers or art papers, just really anything in your stash. I also think that magazines are a good option because they might have thicker papers, they might be a bit larger, so you can trim like the part that you really like. Obviously, if you want to just pencil sketch in your journal exclusively, then you want to use like white paper. But if you like to paper craft or collage, or if you're always going to like paint over your pages with gesso, like in art journaling, then it's sort of okay to have a huge mix of papers. I think it's actually quite nice because it sort of beats that blank page fear. I often create journals with like just this regular copy paper because often I like to stick things in with washi tape or glue things in. It's almost like my journal is a place to like collect a bunch of things. So I don't really need that really strong or good paper as a foundation. But of course, if you like, writing with fountain pens, then obviously you're going to need paper that can take that material that you're going to use. So test things out and just use whatever paper suits your needs. So right now is the time to dive into your paper stash and fold the papers you want to include in your journal. My recommendation is usually about 8 sheets of folded regular copy paper per signature. So depending on the thickness of your paper, you can change the number of sheets you put in each signature so that it doesn't get so thick and bulgy and make it hard to like sew into your journal. Remember that your signatures should be whatever size your final journal will be, and you can always trim it down later. But I like to fold all the papers, separate it into signatures so that I could see what I'm working with, and sometimes they're all the same size, sometimes it's a mix of sizes, and then I know that I will be able to trim it later on. Okay, so now you can go on to the next step, part 4.